Kristine, remember when you were a kid and you thought that your career was going to be this like perfect straight line trajectory?
Oh my, yes. That is not at all what happened. It ended up being way more of a squiggle than I could have ever imagined. And I am so happy that I embraced all of the squiggles along the way. Welcome to Embrace the Squiggle podcast, where we are going to uncover the hidden gems of career transformation, one unfiltered squiggly adventure at a time. We are Kristine
and Colleen,
and this is episode 1. And we would love to introduce you to us and our career adventures. So, Colleen, how are we connected? Do you want to start
goodness,
sharing our story?
It's so fun. I mean, I feel like we're both connectors and networkers in this world, and so. I don't know, it was like 10 plus years ago that Kristine and I met at a conference in Denver, Colorado. So pretty much smack in the middle of where we live, because I'm in the western part of Massachusetts and
I'm on the west coast of Canada in Vancouver.
And we met at a conference and hit it off and kind of kept in touch and hung out at conferences together for a few years. And then we both quit our jobs and started doing stuff on our own and kept connected and finally said, this is it. We're doing a podcast because we have a lot to say to the world and we have great people we know who we want to talk to.
Yeah. And I remember you actually were a keynote speaker at that conference, and I was brand new to higher education, maybe about 2 years into higher ed. And I know that I leaned on you a lot in terms of your knowledge and help in building the career services program that I was building at UBC. So, Colleen, we all want to hear about your squiggly career adventure. So when you were younger, a kid, what did you think you wanted to be when you were all grown up?
I mean, when I was a kid, I definitely thought I was going to be a lawyer, hands down. Everything about me was lawyer. Like, I love to argue everything. You know, I never could just simply say yes or no. I was always what if this, what if that? Let's kind of talk through it. And then in high school, I was a big sports fan. And so had decided I wanted to be an agent for professional athletes and that's what I was going to do. I wanted to be Jerry Maguire before the movie Jerry Maguire came out. And then I got to college and realized I didn't want to do any of that and had no clue what I wanted to do. None. I just kind of fumbled my way through college, ended up studying psychology with a lens on sports psychology, and then just kind of jumped into different careers.
What was your first job?
You know, my first job right out of college was working with people with disabilities and helping them find jobs. And so it was working with people who had real significant barriers to employment and helping them find kind of places in the world where they could really kind of connect with other people and really be out and contributing to kind of society. And then I just kept going. I just kept finding other jobs and other places that kind of had careers as part of the work.
That's interesting. I'm learning lots about you in this episode myself. I'm sure you'll learn a thing or two about me when I get to chat in a couple minutes. What do you do now? How do you earn your paycheck?
Yeah. So now I always feel like I have a couple of streams of what I do, right? Mm-hmm. So one stream is doing executive coaching, right? Helping kind of executive level folks figure out how to really kind of lean into their strengths and do their job. I'm a Gallup certified Clifton Strengths coach and use Clifton Strengths in kind of everything I do. For any of you who are watching this on YouTube, I have my strengths kind of hanging out above me right here. And so my strengths are maximizer, strategic, communication, achiever, and individualization. And so the other stuff I do is I work with teams on kind of preventing burnout and using strengths to do that. And then my last area is that I help people find careers that really work for them. And to me, that's the biggest thing, is to figure out a way to find a career that not only is something you like to do, you know, that pays you money and that you have the skills for, but is also something that kind of fits with your life right now. And right now for me, I have 2 kids who are away at college. I live in my house here with my husband and my 2 dogs, and I have the flexibility to kind of work when and where I want, which is what I absolutely love.
Amazing. So how would you describe your squiggle? So just that kind of connection between your jobs and how you built off of each of them.
You know, when I would jump job to job at different points in my career, I always felt like they were just super different careers and super different jobs. But looking back now, I can totally see the string that ties every single one of my jobs together has been around helping people figure out careers. And so if it was this very first job where I worked with people with disabilities, and then for a while, I worked at Children's Hospital as a training associate, and I worked with a team that we worked with nonprofits nationally on helping them transform their services to provide better career options for people. At one point, I ran the volunteer office at a hospital, and even then, I couldn't stop myself from leaning into the career piece because I instantly started a program that was called Volunteer to Career. And side note, one of our guests coming up was actually one of my very first high school students in that program. So I'm so excited to bring Jill back and kind of hear about her squiggly career. And then I landed in higher ed and I worked in alumni relations, but really with a focus on helping alums figure out careers. And so even though I didn't graduate college thinking I'm going to be a career coach, it's like everything that I've done in my life has been really about helping people build their careers, finding things that fit for them, and really leaning into stuff that they love to do,
Finding meaning, purpose.
Yeah.
motivation.
And even just, I think sometimes it's just finding the career that fits for that moment in time, right? There's definitely points in my career that I wasn't doing the exact job that I loved. Like I wasn't super passionate about what I was doing, but the career fit what I needed it to. Right. I think of the time when I was a mother with young kids and I just needed a job that had some flexibility. So I was leaning much more into flexibility than the kind of passion and purpose that was perfect. It was just what I needed at that time.
And everything's impermanent. I think of clients over the years. Where they've got small kids at home and they've got, they're running in a million directions, and yet they're still, they think they should be pushing forward in their own career. And it's actually okay to just pause, embrace the boredom, embrace, the fact that you do a really great job, and, just sort of move through that chapter to the next chapter where you can start to, move your career in the direction that you want to, but just embracing what's there and making it work for you.
Absolutely. I mean, my clients all tell me the thing that they get the most from me is the statement that I constantly make, which is your next career is not the career you're going to have for the rest of your life.
No.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Unless maybe you're like 70 and you're like, oh, I just want a little retirement job that I work for the next 2 years. But for the rest of us, if you got a new job tomorrow, I wouldn't expect for you to have that for 25 years.
No.
It's not like it was 100 years ago or 50 years ago, where even our parents' generation, where our parents might have had a single employer for their whole career.
Yeah.
It's not like that anymore.
It's not. I had a friend who lost his job after 20 years, and we sat down and had coffee one day, and I said, your next job isn't going to be your forever job. And he heard me, but I don't think he really quite comprehended what I was saying. And he ended up landing a position and moved on to the new role for about 18 months. And unfortunately, there was some changes that were made, and he found himself leaving that role sooner than he thought, and called me up and said, could we meet for coffee? I'm needing some guidance. And yes, of course. And I sat down, and before anything was said, he looked at me and he said, you were right. It wasn't my forever job. So he now can see sort of, instead of looking so far in the future, he's been able to sort of chunk it down and really enjoy and lean into the new position that he's landed, and just see where that takes him.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when I'm working with folks, I tell them they actually need what I call them leapfrog jobs, right? You're in the job now. You need something that you can do for the next year to year and a half to either kind of regroup or gain a really specific skill that you might need in order to just kind of leapfrog and get to that next role. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. Well, and then kind of digressing in a different direction here, but it's also working through giving yourself permission to, make strategic decisions, in that moment.
Absolutely.
That can lead you actually into the direction that you really want to be. Is there a pivotal moment, in your career that you feel had a significant impact on where you're at today?
That's a good question. I guess when I think of a pivotal moment that kind of tied to my career, when my daughter was 1, she got really sick. She ended up in the hospital for a week. And I had a job that I would travel for. Once a week, I went to Boston, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away. But probably once every other month, I was either hopping on a plane or going much further. And after she got sick, I remember thinking, I can't do that. Like, I don't want to leave in case something like this happens again. And instantly, it was that moment where I'm like, I don't care what I do. I just need to be closer to my house. Right. And that pivotal moment in my career was kind of like, okay, this is a job I really liked. I had a boss that I loved. The work I really enjoyed, but it really just didn't fit. And so that was when I kind of took that pause and started to look at what skills did I have and what were the things I really enjoyed. And one of the things at the time that I was doing is I was volunteering for a bike ride. So it was a Boston, New York AIDS ride. It happened every year. I'd been volunteering for it for a few years. And I remember thinking, I really love helping the volunteers figure out what to do. And I ended up becoming the volunteer director at a hospital. Now, that's the one that I put my little asterisk in before, because that's where I started my high school volunteer to career program. I was able to pull in the things I love into a job that not necessarily was there. But it really showed me that I could take my skills and really pivot them into a completely different job, into a completely different field industry, to really be able to show up in a new way at work and take those skills. And it was great. I had a great time there. It was a really enjoyable job. I worked there for about 4 years, and then I had a pivot point in life again and had to change. I was moving and had to change careers again. But to me, that was that moment where I was like, oh, okay, it's, I have to give up something that I really love, but for a really good reason.
And that our skills are transferable.
Yes. Right.
Our skills are not this or that. They're this and that.
Mm-hmm. And they're squiggly, right?
And
our careers are squiggly. Our skills are squiggly, right? I think it's that whole thing. We all think our career is this perfect straight line trajectory, right? We start in this place and we go straight up. And instead, it really is just like a little kid squiggle, like a little kid drawing on a piece of paper. That's it.
And getting curious. The more curious and the more open to exploration and opportunity and trying, the more squiggly it becomes. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
Right. And
keeps things exciting.
Yeah. And I think even more than nothing wrong with it, it's actually normal, right? The more you talk to people and the more we talk to people about their careers, you start to realize that very few people have this perfect straight line career. And there's a few places, right? If you're in the military, there's pretty straightforward. You move from this step to this step and this step to that step. And right, here's how you move up the ranks. But in the rest of the world, that's not really the case in most places.
And there's a lot of professions that used to be like that are no longer. I think of even doctors or nurses. I can think of just individuals in my own network, friendship circle, where they have moved into leadership roles. So out of clinical role, they call them clinical, into administration or leadership or training. But because they have that, the hands-on and the technical experience, they're able to actually utilize that experience in a different way. So even ones that you would still think are pretty linear, actually aren't in every case.
Right. And my guess is most people, probably 95% of the population, if you're over the age of 40, are probably not doing what you thought you were going to do when you graduated high school or graduated college or finished whatever you finished doing and thought, this is where my career starts. My guess is very, very few people out there are doing what they thought they were going to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Any projects or initiatives that you're currently working on or that you're super excited about for 2024?
This, right?
Yeah.
The podcast is really my biggest thing. This is the thing I'm super excited about this year. I can't wait to get this out in the world. And I can't wait to talk to lots of people and just hear about their kind of squiggly careers.
And we are finally collaborating.
Yeah.
I mean, how many conversations have we talked, and said, what if we tried this? Maybe we should do this. And, for whatever reason, we just never found liftoff. And who knows what'll happen now in the future. But this really, it felt right to really lean in and make this happen. So, and
Yeah.
I got to travel, go check out different part of the States that I'd never been to. Super fun. Okay. Fine. Just a final question. What is one piece of career advice that you have for our listeners?
I think it's really to be open to what kind of comes your way, right? One of the things I always tell folks is to make sure you have your resume ready on your desktop, because you never know when that person's going to call and say, send me your resume. I have this interesting opportunity. And even if you're super happy in the job you're in, always take the interview. Right. So I guess when it comes down to it, that's actually my piece of advice. Always take the interview. Always be open to having that conversation, because you have no idea what that door might open.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Rapid fire, fun questions.
All righty.
Okay.
Yep.
Ready? Pen or pencil?
Pen, specifically a Sharpie gel 0.7 S gel Sharpie, preferably in purple.
Right down to the brand. I love it. Salty or sweet?
Sweet, for sure.
Cats or dogs?
Dogs. Have 2 of them. Definitely allergic to cats.
Excel or PowerPoint?
Oh, PowerPoint, hands down. I could play in it for days.
Adventure or relaxing vacation?
Ooh, my whole life, I would have said adventure. And now that I'm the ripe old age of 53, I think I'm heading towards the relaxing vacation now.
A little more beach.
Yeah. All right. Now it's time to kind of flip the switch here. And I get to ask you all of these same fun questions. So I want to start with the same thing, right? So Kristine, tell me, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up, when you were a little kid?
There were I would say as a kid, teacher. I always thought I would be a teacher. And then when I went through high school, I had it in my brain that I had to graduate with every single class. I wasn't about to close any doors. So when I graduated from grade 12, I had every science, every math. I think the only science class I didn't do was physics 12. Had everything else, language, you name it. And when I went and did my first year of college, I did all sciences, because at that point, I decided that I wanted to be an occupational therapist. So somewhere along the line, I pivoted, and that was the direction that I started heading in, until I came to a fork in the road, let's call it, and ended up going the business route, which is where I've been for the last 20, maybe 25 years, close to 30 years.
Nice.
In the world of business. Yeah.
So what was that first job you got after college? Like, what was your first, grown up professional job?
I was an accountant. So when I first decided to go the business route, I was going to pursue my accounting designation, but that would have been out of college. I started out as an accounts payable clerk, and about maybe a year and a half into that role, my supervisor, the controller, she decided to leave her position and started to get me all ready and set to take over. So within about 2 years, I stepped into the controllership position for a smaller wholesale retail sporting goods company here in Vancouver. And that's where I was for about 5 years.
Nice. And then what do you do now? Like, where did you land?
Oh my goodness. Well, my career, a little squiggly, very squiggly. So spent 5 years as an accountant, and then I pivoted and went into financial recruitment. So for, I guess, about 11 years, I spoke and worked with helping accountants find jobs. So I didn't have to actually do the number crunching anymore, but I talked about it a lot. And then after 11 years and a couple of very different economic experiences as the world twisted and turned and all of that good stuff, I decided to make another pivot and moved into higher education. And so, of course, that's where our paths crossed. And I was there for about 9 years. And in 2021, I decided that I was ready to go out on my own. It was actually a goal that I had to be working for myself by the time I turn 50. And that happens next year. And so it seems to be in my nature to make things happen a little sooner than I set the goal for. That's happened a few times. And yeah, I just decided that it was time to step away from the craziness, the rat race, and see what I could do on my own in terms of building my own coaching business. And here I am, I guess almost 3 years later.
Nice. And since I know you also have a passion that you have also turned into a small carved out little job for yourself. That I don't want to say little job, because I guess
it's a big job.
It's a big job in a little really amount of time. I don't know how to even phrase that, but it's
I know.
A full-time job. It's a part-time job, but
it is. It's
tell us about that.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, well, I try and keep my hours to 12 hours a week, but I think I've exhausted that, and it's only Wednesday this week. Yeah. So like you, Colleen, I have a couple of different buckets. So I've got my coaching bucket, which actually has two streams. So I am what they call an associate coach for a subsidiary company called Ezra Coaching, which is actually a subsidiary of the Adecco Group. And I am brought on, I guess, kind of seconded onto coaching projects. And I usually work with on average, about 9 to 12 clients at any given time. And they are situated across North America. So primarily in the States, but also I do have clients. I do have a couple of clients, or one client back east in the Toronto area. And then I have my own private coaching clients, and they typically find me through referral or just a lot of individuals that I've worked with over the years that are repeat clients, which is really nice. We work together, they go off, and then years later, they seem to, many of them have found me now with my own business. And the coaching that I do, I've sort of moved away a bit from the supporting people and helping them find new jobs. And I've been focusing a lot more on leadership development, and I would say self-development. So, individuals who are at a pivotal moment in their life, perhaps reconnecting, realizing that there are changes that need to be made. It could be a career pivot. It could be just in terms of becoming, a stronger, better, more effective leader. But my focus is very much on self. So that personal development, which ultimately trickles into the professional development. So I've done, over the course of the last couple of years, I've taken some deep dives into somatics and neuroscience, emotional intelligence. And actually, most recently, I've done a certification in the world of trauma. So just becoming a lot more trauma informed, which finds its way into my coaching conversations. And my other bucket, so this is from my leadership bucket. I feel like I took my role in higher education and I got to split it into two. I got to split it into coaching, and then I got to split it into the operational and the leadership bucket, which I'm still very much immersed in. The cycling community here in Vancouver. So 4 years ago, I think I'm into year 4, I took on the executive director role of the largest cycling club in British Columbia. So currently I oversee a membership of about 225 cyclists. And that's where I get to exercise all of my strengths in terms of operations and engagement and community, and just overseeing in terms of leadership. I oversee a small team of individuals, and, I'm able to draw upon my coaching and watch them actually develop into leaders, and sort of just learn about themselves in terms of their strengths. And, and I'm talking more on the business side of things off the bike. But it's been no pun intended, it's been a wild ride, but I certainly have learned a lot in the last 4 years. But yeah, just a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's been a lot of fun too. So.
Nice. And, it gets you to be able to do a variety of things, which, from I'm the same way, right? It's why I do a variety of different things in my work, and kind of having those different streams for some people would drive them crazy. And for some of us, it's like exactly what we love to do.
Yeah. When I think, going back to what you were saying about transferable skills, one of the things that, and I'm sure you can appreciate this, is I find, I was in the world of alumni engagement, alumni career services, and the engagement piece. I loved being immersed in the alumni community in higher education. And I find that the skills that I developed there or strengthened, because really many of the things that I brought forward were just natural talents and strengths, it's what I'm leading, it's what I'm leading with in terms of overseeing the cycling club. And it's really, at the end of the day, there's no different. I mean, they're doing different things. Obviously we've got alumni that are around the world and in the world of business, for me, in the world of business. And these individuals, at the end of the day, they want to be engaged and heard and valued and ride their bikes. But how I get there in terms of overseeing the club, there's no difference in terms of skills and experience and strengths. So it's been a really neat pivot. So somebody I worked with years ago came up with the phrase, turning a passion into a profession. And I guess that's really what I've been given the opportunity to do. So yeah, it's been fun.
It's been really great because, I think having those different paths where you can use those different skills or those same skills in different ways just kind of opened you up to so many more experiences. And, I think in the same way as a solopreneur, right, as the person who's like running my business, and I have some folks who work for me occasionally, but it's really most days it's me in my office at my house, to have that outlet and have that ability to have that group that you work with for specific things. Yeah. I think is just really helpful for a lot of us.
Well, and there's been a few that I work really closely with who, I try to let them know the impact that they're having on me in terms of growth and personal and professional and leadership development. And I call it reverse mentoring. And it's been, what they've added to my life and my growth. I couldn't imagine any other individuals sort of being a part of this chapter right now. And it won't be forever. They may move on. I might move on. Who knows what'll happen. But this chapter, I could never have guessed that these individuals would have arrived and taught me so much. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love having those mentor moments that you don't expect, right? No. Those moments that just show up and you're like, I've learned so much, or, right, this person has really helped guide me in a way that I just didn't expect.
Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of thinking on the same realms, like what piece of advice would you give to kind of our listeners about their careers, right? If you had to be like, all right, here's my little nugget today.
Yeah, it's slightly the same as you, slightly, same, different. It's two things. Take a risk, have the conversation, get curious, explore, because you just never know what door might open. I always say to people, it's just a conversation. They're not going to offer you a job. And if they are, you might want to sit with that. Right. You might want to take note, but just, it's the curiosity piece. And to your, I'll use your language too. It's just being open. Being open-minded, nurturing your network. That's the other thing is, you're surrounded by people. Look for opportunities to create connection. Make sure that you are nurturing those connections and keeping in touch, because you never know when you might need them, and vice versa. You never know when they might need you. So, making sure that message is out. Just simply, how can I help? How can I support?
Love it. Love it. All right. Now we get to ask you our fun little rapid fire questions here.
Okay.
All right. First one, pen or pencil?
Pencil.
Nice. And are you a mechanical pencil or a like old fashioned sharpen your Ticonderoga yellow pencil?
Yeah, that one with the eraser.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Excel or PowerPoint?
Neither. I've I have to choose, I would choose PowerPoint with the added little bit of I hire somebody to do PowerPoint for me. I have
Excellent.
very low fuss factor and I fully own it.
Fantastic. Now, you would think as someone who went to school for accounting, you would have said Excel without blinking, but
no,
right? These things we
no.
pivot and change.
I couldn't sit still long enough. I had to go and talk to people. Yeah, no, that's a whole other story. That'll be a follow-up podcast. All the things that didn't work for me.
Oh, yeah. Those are our great ones. Those are going to be fantastic ones.
Exactly.
All right. Cats or dogs?
Oh, definitely puppies, dogs. Yes.
An adventure or a relaxing vacation?
Adventure.
Nice.
Adventure.
And salty or sweet?
I'm salty.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that you said you're salty. It's not like, not that you want salty or sweet like dessert. Like you are just you yourself. You are salty.
I am salty.
Nice.
Oh, no, I was going with like sweet or savory. Well, if we're talking about me, I'm definitely sweet. But if we're going with the savory route, I'm definitely savory.
Excellent. We're going to have to qualify that for our future guests.
We're going to.
Because that was kind of fun to figure out that didn't come out as quickly and easily as we thought it would.
Oh, no.
All right. Well, this was our very first podcast. I am so excited as we move forward because we are going to have some fantastic guests. We have a whole bunch lined up. So we can't wait for you to join us on Embracing the Squiggle every week. You can follow us on Instagram at Embrace the Squiggle. And also stay connected with both myself, Colleen DelVecchio, and my colleague here, Kristine Thody, on LinkedIn for updates and additional insights from us. And also don't forget to like and subscribe now to our podcast. That really helps us. And tell your friends about it because we are so excited to embark on a transformative journey of professional discovery with you and all of our guests this year. Is it time for you to add a little squiggle to your career? Join us every week to hear from another guest talk about how they embrace the squiggle.
Subscribe now and find your inspiration.